Alright, what surfing really looks like. Episode 4, Right Sand Point. This is from Oaxaca, first part of the Mexico trip. Little wave down the way from where we stayed at Surf Las Palmeras. That is me with Emery Lee. We're walking up to the point to paddle out. I have my 5'8" twin fin Barahona. Emery has their 7'4", I think. No, that's their 6'6". Also Barahona. There's Liz getting ready to paddle out there, so we're just strategizing. South swell, long period, and that little ruffle, this spot faces north. So that side wind is a north wind. Not ideal. South wind would be better. Would make these waves cleaner offshore tubing. So you see these piles of rocks here. Here's Madeline's gonna walk by. Sees the camera. Always had incredible surf outfits on the trip. She's riding a 7'6". So you see these piles of rocks. Well, it's not rocks underneath there. So similar to Chile, you have these piles of rocks that collect the sand, and then the sand develops in this curve, and that creates the point break. So it can handle long period swells without closing out, because there's a headland there to our right. So that was a good wave. Nice little set. Nobody's out yet on this morning. We got to it pretty early. That was another good wave. We're just watching, waiting for the sets to go through before we get out there. As I wrote in a lot of the copy for the Subkit newsletters, that Oaxaca was like Chile warm in a mirror, because these setups are very similar, just that they're all left and they're cold water in Chile. There goes Liz, using the channel and the current. So there's a current that's going to sweep down the point. Most of these kind of point breaks like this, where the water is shallower, closer to shore, the sand is shallower, and she's just using the natural sweep to get out to the shoulder. I'm going to hug the inside bar a little bit more. I can duck dive. Here comes Emery behind me, just using the ocean. Emery to practice their duck dive. Looked like a little failure there. Came off the board. Lower body's got to stay on the board, but it was not that big of a deal. Mine, little shallow duck dive. Madeline is popping over the inside. Got taken out pretty easily by that little small whitewater. Then they're just gonna gun for the shoulder while I hug the peak. Shoulder is always a safe place to be. Shoulder in the channel. See, when the wave starts, it's really similar to the, obviously there's the one, the episode 3. Here goes Emery on the inside, the left sand point, where the peak is going to be up on the sand. This wave allowed for, it was really fast, so it allowed for multiple takeoff spots all around the bar. But obviously you're going to get the longest ride the further up that you sit. And you will see that cleaner and messier waves. The wind is going to get stronger throughout the session. As I've written and talked about many times, we really did struggle with wind on this trip. So if you're planning a trip to Oaxaca, you may score with light winds, favorable winds, and it's not that you will get skunked, it's just that you might have to deal with some tricky wind situations. They're never going to post those ones though. You're only going to see on Instagram the beautiful, clean offshore tubing waves. But our experience was that was not the norm. Those were exceptional days. think Peyton was already out there, so that's Peyton right there next to me. They tended to sit a lot deeper. That's Katie's head walking by the camera, so she's on her way out. Solo shot is really good for coaching on these trips. Get somebody to watch the camera on the beach, which we had our guides doing. I'm wearing the tag, and then everybody's in my vicinity. We could ride waves together. And then, yeah, this allows me also to get a little bit of footage of my surfing in between filming. So I filmed in the morning on this session too, when it was glacier. There's a little inside wave running a little bit too fast, just a little lull here, and that's a thing too when you're surfing big, long interval South Pacific swells. There can be a big wait in between sets. You want to be patient. Peyton, not so patient right there, going for a really bad wave. Usually not worth it, especially when you're trying to conserve energy. Taking a look, and I decide against it. It's one thing that any surfing really looks like videos that I'm posting for you guys. You notice I look but don't take a lot, and that's a huge advice that I'm giving to my clients a lot of the time. You do not have to go for every wave you look at. Sometimes there's another person on them. Sometimes it's just not that bad of a wave, but if it happens to be a good one, at least you've gotten yourself close to a position. Madeline on the inside, she's too inside, so she's trying to find those small ones, but struggling with position. Katie practicing her duck dive. Katie's duck dive got pretty good on this trip. As you can see, she stayed on her board. Peyton picked off that one. We were working on modifying that pig dog. It's their go-to move, but it comes a little bit out of anxiety, and the shin on the board is not totally ideal all of the time, although there are moments when it does look super cool. But you just have no flexibility on your shin, so you do really want that back foot to land at least on your toe pads a little bit, and then you have the flexibility to go down onto the knee or the shin and then to come back out. So all this time, I've not caught a wave, still working on positioning. You can see that rip right there. As usual, my students are like a lot frothier than I am. I know we're on these trips to get waves, but the froth usually kills you. I had paddled a little bit too deep. That one missed all of us, so just working out positioning here. So I'm looking at this next one, trying to get in position. Got in position. Little top turn. Seeing what the wave will do. Just grabbing my rail, and thing didn't really tube. But nice first wave, It's pays to just take your time, find something that will stay open for you. Solo shot's trying to find me. As it's finding me, you can see these inside waves allow for like a little turn section. Again, the wind was wrecking a little bit of havoc out there. If the wind was a different direction, all these closeouts would have been staying open for the most part. Maybe a little fast, but definitely staying a lot open. Sun, mid-morning sun. Not super ideal for filming. Very silhouette-y, hard to get details. Image is kind of blown out a little bit. The flip side of the wind being choppy is that you do get fewer people. So it's kind of just got to pick which problems you want. In this case, we got the not so great conditions, but nobody out, so that always offers an opportunity to really exercise that patience. So If you're already frothy and it's crowded, that's just going to exacerbate the whole entire issue of the froth affecting your surfing negatively. There's a cool little inside wave. Emery turning, legs just went wide. Madeline, hands stayed on the rails. Peyton coming from deep, and the wave was just a little too fast for them. The other thing you can notice too when I'm surfing these points, this time, so far I've only caught one wave. It's been about 10 minutes, 11 minutes, one wave in 11 minutes. And I chose to paddle back out very slowly. So I think I talked about that too in the left sand point video. Really want to conserve your energy, especially in a place that's hot like this. There was a good inside wave that none of us saw. See what this thing does? I'm looking at it. I'm looking, making a move, and again deciding against it. So another example, I just looked down the line, saw how fast it was. Even here as I'm doing the voiceovers, I'm like, oh, that thing looks kind of good, but it didn't turn out that good. So that happens a lot in the ocean. People ask me all of the time, how do I know which one to go for? Well, you kind of are guessing from before you see the wave, like, okay, this one looks like it has pretty good shape. And then you're trying to get into the position, the takeoff, you want to be as deep as you possibly can and early as you possibly can, which means you don't necessarily want the wave to break on your back, especially if you're not super confident at late takeoffs. And then you gotta look and see if it turns out to be the case if you're going for the wave. So here I'm gonna paddle over the top of that one, because I knew I was too deep. Katie, hands just staying on the rails, not looking down the line enough. And again, this is the theme of these videos too. This is what surfing really looks like. Sitting, waiting, missing, falling, paddling, trying to get in position, shopping for waves and not going. I'm gonna go on this inside one. A little cutback, wave is about ankle high. So it's not a great wave, but it stayed open, right? And for a lot of people, that's a win. For me, that wave was terrible, but it's been almost 13 minutes, just wanted something else under my belt. Probably better off waiting for the one I'm paddling past now. So, you know, I'm not immune to over froth. Gets the best of us. Certainly not immune. Far, far from immune. As I'm paddling back out, I'm really trying to see, well, watching the students. I'm going to turn around for this inside wave. That's why you paddle out slowly, just in case, but that thing went too fast for me. It had the look, but I couldn't catch up to it. But that is a real solo shot's like, oh, let's see, could you have hit that end section? That is a reason to paddle out slowly, especially at points, but at beach breaks it works out too, you know? Like, you don't want to be that person that paddles right back out to the peak and, like, starts jockeying for position. But because you've caught a wave and you're at the bottom of the line in terms of whose turn it is to catch a wave, the inside waves are fair game. So you're not going to see them if you're in a hurry to get outside. And sometimes inside waves do hit the bar just right. Here goes Madeline. Oh! Didn't get the right angle on that takeoff. This is also a good antidote to when I post the cool videos of the students doing so well, and everybody that does do well on the trips. I post the success, but there's a lot of wiping out, a lot of trial and error happening out here. Little inside wave. I'm going to have another sniff. And not much doing there. Maybe could have stuck with it. You know, I could probably be on a bigger board. Would have been a better ride. There goes Katie on a really good set wave. So, riding her 6.6, that was a good one. I think she did a little top turn on the inside that we all saw. So, Katie was patient there, getting that one. It's actually one of the better waves of her whole trip. The other thing, just to elaborate on this whole paddling out slowly through the inside waves versus set waves, priority, that kind of stuff. That's why I always recommend watching the pro surf contests and their idealized form of priority that they have operating in the heats. Because those take this kind of general principle that once you go for a wave on the outside, you've lost your turn. And of course, people don't obey that idealized maxim all of the time. Great lineups work well when everyone's obeying that and acknowledging one another and being like, all right, you know, like even personally when you go and you miss and you're like, oh man, I lost my turn. Or you go for a wave and it's not that good, like, sorry, you still lost your turn. But you know, you've been out there plenty of times when somebody lost their turn or wiped out or even got an okay wave and comes back, paddles around you, and starts paddling for the next waves. It's really annoying, and what they do in pro surfing is the behavior is just not allowed. You'll get docked a wave from your total, you know, you're actually going to be doing damage to your potential for making the heat. So, love that about pro surfing. Love the priority system. Again, it's an idealization. Doesn't happen all the time, except for in lineups that are really working well and people are really taking turns. Madeline went on that inside wave, out of view of the camera. Solo shot's just working like a surf line cam in a way. So I'm wearing a strap and everybody's surfing around me. Tide's getting pretty low too. Wind is getting harder. See that water moving? We're just trying to find position here. Have a new taker. The going belief in this area is low tide is better. It's the case in a lot of places in the world, so you'll see the lineup get crowded around the tide. Goes Emery. Nice way to pick off an inside wave. Looks like Liz is going to go on this one. And she's just a little on the shoulder, and not even her 7.6 can make up for the poorness of the wave and positioning there. You know, the other thing too, just in case anybody's interested in like what coaching looks like in the water, so this is in the water coaching. You know, I'm like a buoy, I'm like a priority buoy, an area to sit at, to know where to take off. Telling Peyton to look more, because they were out of position. So just little reminders. Not trying to get you guys to overthink when you're out there, but just to continue to work on position and maintaining position, because the ocean's moving all the time. And if we were to just sit there, you can tell we're not just like sitting, maintaining position. You're not paddling full strength, but sit up, rest a little bit, paddle a little. It's like I'm going to try to position for this one. I was too deep, so I duck dived instead. You know, a lot of intermediate or beginner surfers would have like just still turned and gone with the wave on their back, curling with wide legs. So that there's this thing that happens on low tide sandbars, call it like hydrophobia, where the sandbar just doesn't want the water on it. You can see the sandbar's just draining water off of it. It's like I'm looking at this one, a little bigger wave, and it just closed out on me. Accept the closeout, fall off the back of the wave. I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't wearing a leash. I am. So I'm just gonna get the board back in my control here. Pretty shallow, you can see, about rib deep. Here come more people. The way that camp works is there are these little like room cabin units. There goes Peyton. Everybody has their own guide, and like if you're a big group like us, you might have 2 guides because you might need 2 trucks. And it's kind of up to you to communicate to the guides, like if you're an early riser or a late riser, or just your whole flow that you're on in your trip. They'll accommodate you. Our priority was to get a few uncrowded sessions. That was Emery, just bit the nose there. Good wave selection. At least at the start. It looks like it closed out at the end there. Liz, ooh, nice wave. Liz waited for this one, so her patience really paying off there, staying with the power source. That was a weird one. Has that double up on the inside. That was a thing that became thematic in a lot of the people's videos, was not outrunning the wave on the shoulder, trying to find that double. I don't even know why I was looking at that one, because it really did have that double up. You know, when you're riding a short board, you're looking for a more vertical area of face. I mean, mid-length too, a lot of boards. But on the longer the board, you know, the more that the board can handle mushy sections, and we do nose rides in mushy sections and in vertical sections too. But here comes a set, kind of, it's been about 22 minutes. Haven't seen a set this big since we started doing the voiceovers. So that gives you a little more perspective into the south swells. And the bigger set's breaking further in the channel where the wave is choppier. So it's not necessarily a better wave. Something really important to remember, and we had to talk about this a lot on the trip, was when you're surfing even bigger swells at different spots, a lot of the crew were sitting like way in the channel to be safe. And I was trying to explain you had to move in over the bar to get the smoother waves, because the sand in there can smooth out the face. Katie had a look at that one. Again, just a lot of chop in those larger waves. It's just getting shallower and shallower, we can see too. Alright, we're about halfway through the video now. If you want to pause it, get some water, popcorn. Here's a bigger wave. Emery, great wave selection, and just the chop threw them off. So, way to go, getting in it. Want to calm the arms, calm the legs, hold the board down. Katie's going for this one, and that bubble just pushed her off just a bit. She would have had to be under it to catch that wave. Good wave for what was on offer. Looks like I'm going to position for this one. Yep, there I am. Little pocket ride. Little cutback. Staying with the power source. Another little pocket ride. Probably should have been doing turns there, but it is what it is. Ran too fast on me there. This board, honestly, I should not have been riding this board in this session if I'm going to be retrospective about my equipment choice. This twin fin likes glassy conditions and a little oomph in the wave, not so fast and, as my friend and yoga coach Evan calls it, strung out. This is a reminder to always catch a whitewater in though. So, you know, the wave is your taxi. don't lock in when you're down the beach somewhere. That wave was long enough where I'm not going to do the paddle out though. So the walk around is going to be conservative of my energy. But yeah, this board, awesome board. No real crazy bottom contours. It's just a modern twin fin with a round tail, little wing bump on it. I randomly picked this airbrush, but it is reminiscent of Danny Kwok in the 80s, Newport Beach, Echo Beach, Quicksilver style. See a lot of forward volume in the nose, which is how I kind of get all my boards. I love that forward volume to help me get into waves. It's kind of the going trend in surfing right now. For good reason. You can get a lot of shape in the tail, do all kinds of cool stuff back there, so you have control. That looks like Katie. Got a little wave as I'm walking around. I'm always like, when I have this opportunity to walk around, I can assess everybody's surfing, they're catching waves. These are drawstring shorts, so just got to make sure my strings are tied. Looks like that's what I'm doing right there. I'm about, where was I here? This is July, so I'm about a month and a half into my vegan fitness coaching program that I'm doing with Game Changer Academy. Fritz Hortzman Consulting has changed my life for sure, but I'm already way fitter now here in August doing this voiceover than I was in July on this trip. Cool being for the first time traveling on it. Whoa, Emery had trouble with that front rail. That is a super common thing with a lot of intermediate surfers, is that you all are a little too heavy on that front foot. And unfortunately, there's so much bad advice on the internet and YouTube about quote-unquote being front-footed and leaning on your front foot for pumping, and Emery's not obeying any of that bad advice. My point is, you don't need the bad advice because your default is to see the wave and to try to press on your front foot to go faster, and it's intuitive, but it doesn't work in surfing. So just be warned that when anybody's talking about putting pressure on your front foot for pumping, they're already talking about people who have been surfing their whole entire lives. So they're talking about John and Dane Reynolds and Coco Ho and people who can shift weight from the back foot to the front foot. So all of the moves in surfing are initiated with the back foot, and you might do things with your front foot after that back foot initiation, but honestly, intermediates, you are already pushing too much on your front foot. So you need to learn how to use the back foot way before you even start thinking about the front foot. Pretty much your front foot is your nemesis throughout this phase of your surfing where you can take off, pop up, get down the line, and you're like maybe thinking about learning to pump and cut back. And from what I see, it's just you're looking for the first time, and your eyes are going down the line, so your whole body weight shifts forward onto that front leg, and that pushes your front rail down. Where us better surfers, people who've been surfing our whole lives, we are taking more of our time, so time's not sped up for us. You know, we are taking more of our time, our present moment is like more expanded, or like temporally rich, temporally thick, I like to call it, and we can stand up. If we need to put on the gas, we know we put on the gas, press down with our back foot, and guide the board with our front foot. If the wave needs a stall, then we press down on our back foot, slow ourselves down. You know, we just have more time to adjust our feet. And that's one thing I'm also going to say here while we're watching what surfing really looks like. Nobody catching waves, choppy conditions, fishermen driving by, is that you want to get to a place where you're taking your time, have more time, learn your back foot, move your feet. That's really the point I wanted to make. I want you to watch surf videos, all the stuff on my YouTube channel, watch your favorite pros, watch longboarding, watch shortboarding, watch mid-length riding. What are you gonna see the best surfers do? We adjust our feet a lot. So what a lot of people are trying to get out of their arms and their hands, in a good surfer, it's coming from the feet. That person just did a cutback at the wrong time. Why? Because the wave passed him. He had speed, but used it incorrectly. That one, long period south swell, caught us all inside. That was a better set, but what? It's been 30 minutes. That's the biggest wave we've seen come through, besides what Katie caught. So you want to go easy on yourself when you see the reality of these kind of situations too, which is that there aren't a lot of good waves. So if you're frustrated that you're not on a lot of good waves, there just aren't a lot of them. So you can go easy on yourself. It's a hard conditions, hard session. And if you get one or two like decent rides, little pocket ride, perform something that you haven't performed a little bit better for the first time, it's a win in these kind of conditions. These are really hard. Looks like I'm gonna go for this one. It appears to be pulling water up nicely, staying with the white water. Little hit. Not pushing overly hard, just waiting. Here I am again on the back foot. You see how much back foot? Not a lot of arm movement. Trying to stay with the wave. There's that low road. I'm gonna get into it. Little hit on the inside as it grows for me. And a knot tube to finish. Pretty good wave though. Happy with that one. Again, the board does work. It's just the choppy conditions are not the best for it. It has like plenty of volume, but I don't know, I think because the bottom is like so slick and those fins can be, they're spicy because there's no center fin. Spicy meaning kind of slidey a little bit, but it just doesn't carry the speed through the chop the way like my fish does, or maybe something bigger with a little more weight would. That was another long wave though, so I can watch what's going on. And look at the curvature of that bay. Wild, right? So when you do intakes or oceanography classes with me, I talk about the kind of landscapes that can handle long period energy. What you're looking for are landscapes like this, where there's an extreme curvature in the coastline. Celebrating somebody's good ride. Sorry it's not on video. But look at that extreme curvature. I mean, that beach and headland, that's Punta Conejo in the background. So on the other side of that is a lot of footage you see of, well, that's not, the big mountain is not Punta Conejo. That little one right there is Punta Conejo, right there. That spit of land that goes out. And then these, or that's it, there it is, sorry. That is Punta Conejo, right behind me right there. So that is another right sandpoint break down the way. But this curvature, radical curvature, when those long swell lines come, this curvature can bend the swell, literally bend it. It's called refraction, where, as people may know or not know, I'm stationed out of Rockaway Beach, New York. Been living here since 2009, so 13 years. Grew up Northern California, Monterey Bay area. But living here in New York, we have this sand barrier island, and there's not a lot of curvature. There are changes, but they're subtle, not so radical like this. I mean, here, look at that, was a good one behind the rocks. Really dynamic coastal environment here. Wow, that was a good set. You know, tends to happen when you're walking out. So you could take off behind the rocks. You could take off pretty far outside on this wave. Peyton picking up one on the corner there. And in general, you notice I always am taking my time, conserving my energy. Again, like I can, just like the rest of us, get caught up with overfroth. But for the most part, I do try to control it. So I'm watching your guys' practice, taking in the conditions, always trying to figure out, okay, how can I get on another one of those good waves? What do those ones look like? How can I catch them? How long am I going to have to wait? Whose turn is it? How many waves do I have to give away? You know, or which way do I have to reposition myself? And it's really dependent on the different kinds of what I call lineup actors, right? So we have a really nice crowd here. Everybody's staying at the same place we were staying at, Surf Las Palmeras. So me and my crew already acknowledged that we're going to share waves, and we're not jockeying each other, you know, we're not paddling around each other. We're, for the most part, cheering each other on. The other guys in the lineup are stoked that there's a lot of women surfers out in the water, and they want to see them get waves. This kid and his dad were staying next to us, so they had a really cool father-son vibe. And so this is a really, you know, despite the hard conditions, this is a really friendly lineup. Not all lineups are friendly, you know, and they weren't always, everybody was nice on this trip, nobody was mean. But, you know, there were frothing kids from Southern California paddling around everybody. They surfed really well, but they, you know, had that air of entitlement that because they surf well, they deserve more waves than everybody else. And even if people like me who are in their 40s and can surf are sitting out the back, they're going to paddle around me and take away from me. There's Emery. A little more on the back foot, but you saw right when they pressed down on that front foot, the nose went under. And no movement in the feet. So again, back to that theme. This is not, surfing is not snowboarding. Just to finish the thought about the crowds, yes, there were some tougher sessions, not on solo shot, with those frothing kids paddling around. There's the guy's dad, the young kid's dad, paddling out there. Sean Rhodes from Northern California, surfboard shaper. It's like I'm going on this inside wave. Got a little overextended there, just one turn and a kick out. Just trying to stay busy at this point. So then, I'm going to talk about the theme. The two things that I've been talking a lot about, positioning, patience, and then foot movement. It's really crucial. Really, really crucial. We're not snowboarding, right? We got to catch the wave, first of all, so we don't start in a stance. We have no bindings. That was a good one. That ran super wide. And so, because our feet are free on the board, we need to move our feet even incrementally to find those places where the board works better for us, given the wave that we're surfing. Little note, when a wave breaks not at a peak and it's bigger and it catches everybody off guard, we call that wide. Wide ones, there's a whole strategy to sit for wide ones at a point break like this, but I gotta say it is super hard to maintain position when you're going for wide ones, because you're gonna sit there on the shoulder and you're just gonna see sick ones at the peak over and over and over and over again, and you're gonna get drawn up to that takeoff zone because it's really, really hard to stay patient on the shoulder, waiting for the biggest, widest set of the day. It's a strategy. It can work, but it requires insane patience and fortitude to not get drawn up to that takeoff spot. And that's the case too at like any place that has a significant peak, you know, like thinking about here in Rockaway or taking off at the jetties. Often there are tons of sick waves in the middle of the beach, but when you're sitting in the middle of the beach not catching waves, watching everybody get sick ones off the rocks, it's hard not to say to yourself in your head like, oh man, I'm gonna go get one of those. So that's why you have people congregating around the main peak. The other problem with sitting wide is that not all the wide ones break wide. Sometimes they start at the peak and somebody gets one deep and you end up burning somebody because you just, again, like got to the end of your rope with sitting deep. And another lull. The reality of surfing. Very little wave catching and a lot of paddling, walking, positioning, little social moments, trying to figure out the best way to surf these waves, any waves that you're surfing. This particular one, you know, another thing I haven't said in 40 minutes, they only go right. So that's a great thing about surfing a point break. It eliminates the how do I know rights from lefts? Well, the curvature of the land determines that for you. It's only going right. If you go left, there is a problem. Funny enough though, there's a way to go left. So if you're a backside surfer like me, a roundhouse cutback is a toe side turn. I'm just gonna need a lot of space to get onto my toes and cut back to the section. So a lot of these waves were too fast to allow for a full roundhouse, because if I did one, I'd end up too far back in the whitewater and not catch up back up to the waves. Similarly though, if you're a frontside surfer, so regular foot surfer, going on these rights, and you get far enough out on the shoulder, you can perform a frontside cutback, which is like you were going right, and your cutback means you're going left back to the power source. So it's like a backside turn on your heels. It's like I'm taking a look at this one, and it always looked terrible, but I did catch up to it using that little rail grab technique, and then it closed out on me. So yeah, I'm the coach catching bad waves. It happens. Again, I totally am a victim to overfroth, and I actually have to tell you, when I ride a shortboard, it's worse. So I know I almost, you know, even for this video, it's like, oh, I really got to find one that has me riding a mid-length. Because, yeah, this is a nice place to say this, you know. I've been surfing my whole life since I was a toddler. My dad had me on large boards. I wanted to ride short boards when I was young, and he wouldn't allow me, kept me on the larger boards because he wanted me to develop a smooth surfing style. And then as soon as I could afford my own boards, or he actually like determined there was a point when I was allowed to have a 5.8, and I'd already had the foundation of the smooth surfing before I got the shorter boards. But now I prefer to ride shorter boards, but I've been surfing my whole life, and I don't prefer to ride shorter boards in mushy, shitty waves. So I always want to be going fast, always want to be maintaining speed, but the minute the wave is standing up enough, I personally am going to go to a shorter board, because I haven't perfected even my shortboard surfing yet, and it's exciting for me to try new things. But that said, because I'm excited to try new things, Liz, wait, I'm going to stop my thought. Liz picked up another good one. So this is one of Liz's best sessions. Nice moving back to the tail there, just not enough over the back foot. So then to finish the thought about shortboarding is my attitude can be terrible when I'm on a shortboard. It's like you pick the thing up and you're already more aggressive, and it doesn't bring out like even the best in the person who's riding the shortboard, even though the surfing might be more dynamic and radical. So sometimes when I catch myself just getting into a shitty attitude or having a bad session, like sinking on my board, I just always have something mid-length with me, something with a little more volume, to just pull me, to get me to flow better, you know, get me out of that attitude. That's not going to happen in this session, and I was perfectly happy watching everyone trying to figure it out. One of the dudes caught a nice wave there. Katie taking a look, and that's the kid, Sean Rhodes' son. He'll be going to Stanford this year. This was his high school graduation present from his dad. Pretty nice present, whole surf trip, and that's a good school that he's going to. Hopefully we can figure out how to do away with predatory loan practices in our higher education programs. That would be cool. That would be really awesome. I mean, there's a way in which paying for education is a thing, but it shouldn't be like so exorbitant that you can't become a productive member of society afterwards. We have a lot to figure out. A lot to figure out in the world, specifically in America. Alright, so we're at 45 minutes. There are 52 minutes total, so only 7 more minutes of, what is mostly boring. I really applaud you. There's Emery. Nice one, that front foot. Front foot got Emery again. Not back far enough on the tail for the pumping. There's a weird wave. He got caught up in it. Katie, another good one. Wow, that was a great wave Katie caught right there. Took off at the right spot. She was a little wide, so I applaud you for watching through this. It's kind of the point of these videos, though. What surfing really looks like is not exciting all of the time. That was a great wave. Best waves always going right in. Mother Ocean has the last say all of the time. Always winning. She's like, oh yeah, you don't like it? I'm too big, I'm too flat. Too bad. Swell peaks in the middle of the night. Best day of the swell has the worst wind conditions. That's the ocean. That's what we're dealing with. And I always say too, surfing is primarily a relationship with the ocean. Trying to read the rhythms, not to master or dominate the ocean, but you're really like reading and understanding so that you can find those moments to take advantage of the gifts that she will offer up. Part of taking the gifts is accepting the punishments, which are also gifts of their own kind of variety. It's like a little wave is coming through now. Let's see if somebody gets it. Off the top of the point. Peyton on the inside. It did a little lump, and there's where that kneeling, you really don't want a kneeling pig dog in general, everyone. Again, it can look good, it can work, but it is not the one you want. Puts your feet in a very weird position, and essentially it comes out of anxiety and not out of intention and placement. And the kind of mastery you do want is not over the ocean, but over your technique. That's the kind of mastery you want. So any kind of move that comes directly out of anxiety is not an example of mastery of your technique. That was a good one. The ocean winning again on the inside, thing turning inside out. Wow. Gotta love seeing an empty wave go by. So yeah, you can master your body, mind complex thingy. Don't think of it like it's two separate things. There's no such thing as a body and a mind. There is, but they're part of the whole entire organism that works in various processes. So the minute you start thinking of your body and mind as separate, the wheels come off the bus. I have more to say about that in other places. I wanted that one. I wasn't deep enough, so I didn't go. Another really important lesson for beginners and intermediates. Be honest with your positioning. You may want a wave, but if you're in a bad spot, ooh, he needed a few extra paddles there. If you're in a bad spot, don't go. Be honest with your positioning. If you're in a good spot, go. Looks like I'm going to turn and go for this one. Oh, that one I remember. The board just slid out. It's in a good position. I just couldn't handle it. Wiped out so hard the solo shot couldn't track me. So this is about over in 2 minutes. Little baby wave going through without anybody on it. Thank you guys for watching another one of these episodes. that hopefully bring some reality to surfing. It's super hard. This is not an easy sport. It is not easy understanding the ocean, getting along with other people, sharing waves, taking off, adjusting your feet, looking down the line, mastering your bodily techniques on the surfboard, so you're like becoming a cyborg with this piece of equipment that you have. All of this is hard. Anybody that tells you surfing is easy and you can do it on your own doesn't know what they're talking about. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it. So if you have the intuition that it's not easy, you are onto something. You need to stick with that because you're right. All right, I'm going on an inside wave. It's my last one. And I'm just going to get a pocket ride, apparently, and a baby cutback. Wide stance. See the little adjustments in my back leg? Little floater, and call it a day. If you get a good wave, you got to go in on it sometimes. You know, a lot of people will be like, I just got to get one more. But that one was good enough, so I'm going to call it a session. Landed me right by the truck. Going to get my electrolyte water. Maybe eat a Misfits bar. High protein, low sugar, low fat. Stay fit. Stay active. Stay looking at the ocean. Last note. Always keeping the eyes out on the ocean and on the bottom so I don't break my ankle in uneven sand. Just looking out the back there, turning off the solo shot. Thanks, guys. See you next time.